The IDF is operating on 3 fronts simultaneously, along the Nezareem Corridor in the Gaza Strip, in the villages of southern Lebanon, and in Judea and Samaria. All this is being done in an effort to shape the rules of engagement in the Middle East and the achievements of the war in Lebanon and in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hezbollah is steering provocations in southern Lebanon, and Israel explains why it cannot withdraw yet. A chaotic situation in southern Lebanon left 22 dead and 124 wounded on Sunday as hundreds tried to rush into areas that the IDF had warned not to approach. Films of the incident show Lebanese National Army troops doing nothing to prevent this movement of people despite repeated warnings by the IDF. In Judea and Samaria, the IDF has changed its strike policy and other aspects of the rules of engagement as the release of hundreds of dangerous terrorists from prisons in Israel requires a different approach. In Gaza, there is a name on everyone's lips, Arbel Yahud, and until recently, few had heard this name. Now it's everywhere because she was supposed to be released on Saturday, but Hamas violated the terms of the agreement by not releasing her, and now Israel has said that residents of the northern part of the Gaza Strip will not be allowed to go through the Nezareem Corridor into this area until she's released. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are trying to move along the Nezareem route to the northern part of the Gaza Strip despite a clear warning from the IDF Arabic spokesperson. The IDF has had a difficult time keeping them back. It is assessed that this is a tactic that Hamas is using to try and pressure Israel and embarrass it on the international stage. However, there has been progress in the talks to release Arbel, and we hope she'll be home very soon. Meanwhile, there are reports that Hamas is having difficulties rebuilding as there is no training of new recruits going on, no productions of new weapons, and limited help is arriving from the Islamic Republic of Iran. But these are not the only problems that Hamas is facing. The new American administration has a plan to move large numbers of Gazan residents to Jordan and Egypt. These countries don't like this idea, and Hamas is furious. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your boots on the ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 479 of the war with Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shiite militias in Iraq, and the armed groups in Judea and Samaria. All of them are taking their orders from Iran, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. A moment before we begin, I want to invite you to click on the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that you stay tuned to the truth in real time and never miss an episode of Boots on the Ground. Today's video is brought to you by ERUPTS. Start the year off right by bringing the beauty and blessings of Israel into your home. With an ERUPTS subscription, you'll enjoy a curated selection of handcraft products and delicious treats from the Holy Land. We'll share more about that later in the report. Since Sunday morning, the IDF has shown resolve on all 3 fighting fronts, including the Nezareem Corridor in Gaza, the villages in southern Lebanon, and the Judea and Samaria region. However, there has been an incident in southern Lebanon that has given our enemies the opportunity to score a propaganda victory by saying we show no mercy towards civilians. It began on Sunday morning, which was supposed to be the last day of the 60-day ceasefire that began on November 27th of last year. According to the original plan, the IDF was supposed to have been fully withdrawn from southern Lebanon by this time, and Hezbollah was supposed to have fully withdrawn north of the Litani River. In between the Litani River and the Israeli border, the Lebanese National Army was supposed to have been deployed to ensure that Hezbollah would not return to this area to rebuild the infrastructure for attacking Israel in the future. However, Hezbollah did not retreat north of the Litani River, and the Lebanese National Army has not fully deployed in the area either, while the IDF continued to find tunnels and bunkers filled with weapons and ammunition that Hezbollah had placed in that location. Following the protocols of the ceasefire mechanism, the IDF informed the Lebanese National Army of this, and to their credit, the Lebanese army did move to dismantle some of them, but this process was taking far too long, and the IDF often had to simply move in to do the work themselves. When the day came for the ceasefire to end, there was still much work left to be done. So Israel asked the United States for an extended of the ceasefire for at least another 30 days. That request has now been granted, but on Sunday, Hezbollah decided to try something different. Hezbollah operatives joined the large numbers of civilian residents of these southern Lebanese villages who naturally were hoping to return to their homes as the ceasefire ended. Although Hezbollah knew very well that the IDF had been ordered to keep people away from these villages, they decided to try and stir up the crowds to move into them anyway. For Hezbollah, this was a no-lose situation. If the IDF allowed the residents to move in, Hezbollah would be able to move in with them and immediately began rebuilding their fighting positions in that location. If the IDF moved forcefully to prevent the movement, then Hezbollah would be able to score a propaganda victory by saying that the IDF carried out a massacre of innocent people who just wanted to go home. This is an example of how Hezbollah cynically uses its own civilian population as both human shields and also a tool against Israel in the war for international public opinion. In any case, based on Lebanese and Israeli media reports, several tens of thousands of Lebanese had already arrived outside the villages. Some arrived without equipment or belongings, and some arrived carrying Hezbollah's yellow flags. Encouraged by the Hezbollah operatives amongst them, many of these people attempted to move into the villages while the Lebanese National Army stood around and did nothing to stop them. The IDF was compelled to fire warning shots, and in the confused and chaotic situation, some people were hit. According to reports from Lebanon, at least 22 people were killed, including a Lebanese National Army soldier. Around 124 people were also wounded, some of them seriously. Of course, this is being portrayed in the Arab media and even some Western media outlets as an Israeli massacre of helpless civilians, although there is evidence that at least some of those killed were members of Hezbollah. However, the IDF is also saying that this incident proves that they need to stay in southern Lebanon longer, as Hezbollah is obviously trying to exploit the situation to do exactly what it agreed not to do and move back into the area adjacent to the Israeli border. On Sunday evening, a statement from the White House said that the IDF would be allowed to remain in southern Lebanon until February 18th, and Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati quickly announced that the government of Lebanon agreed to this. In an official statement, Hezbollah praised the Lebanese who tried to return to their villages 2 months after the ceasefire, despite the IDF's announcement that for now it will not fully withdraw from southern Lebanon. The Hezbollah statement included typical rhetoric, stating that this is a glorious day. The great people of the resistance have again proven that they are a nation rooted in its land, clinging to every grain of soil. The scenes of those returning to their villages with the flags of those who died and the Hezbollah flags embody the highest meanings of steadfastness and victory. Meanwhile, according to the IDF, the Lebanese army has not sufficiently cleaned up the areas controlled by Hezbollah, mainly in the eastern sector, and there is an operational plan and a range of action options for a possible escalation with Hezbollah, which is currently described as unexpected. An IDF statement on the matter also stated that the Lebanese army is not doing its job. not only does it fail to deploy in the area that Israel is evacuating, it also fails to disarm Hezbollah. All this is happening in the very places that Israel warned about. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development on Israel's northern border. As always, we ask you to help us spread the truth by sharing our videos on YouTube, following us on social media, and most importantly, pray for the situation. At TBN Israel, we work hard every day to bring you up-to-date, detailed content on what's happening in Israel. Every financial contribution that you make will help us create more content from this land. So please donate via the donate button on YouTube or visit our website at www.tbnisrael.com/give. Now, we shift our focus to events in Judea and Samaria. In the last 24 hours, the IDF spokesperson's unit announced an unusual strike near a procession of gunmen in the Palestinian Balata refugee camp in Nablus. This was the first time that the IDF had carried out such an operation against an armed march, and it signals a change in the rules of engagement in Judea and Samaria. The IDF subsequently confirmed that in light of the ceasefire deal in Gaza, which includes the release of many security prisoners from Israeli jails, Central Command decided to change the equation versus the terrorist organizations. From now on, the IDF's strike policy throughout Judea and Samaria will no longer be as it used to be. Sunday's strike against an armed convoy is not going to be a one-time event. More such strikes may follow if the terrorists continue their armed processions throughout these cities and in the streets. These processions by the terrorist groups are meant to be a show of force to intimidate the IDF, keep local residents in line, and in general, show everyone how tough they are. But the IDF has decided that this is not going to be tolerated any longer. This is how Central Command will try to maintain control of the area and eradicate the terror of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists in Judea and Samaria. As we have reported in the past, unlike other combat arenas, the official who can define levels of warfare in Judea and Samaria is the Central Command commander, who is currently IDF Major General Avi Blut, the sovereign in the area. So guys, please pray for General Blut and his soldiers that they will be able to succeed in this mission and bring about the eradication of terrorism in Judea and Samaria soon. However, we can assume that there will be an escalation of violence in the near term as the terrorist groups will try to show everyone that they're still not intimidated by this new IDF policy. So, more armed processions are likely, and the IDF will hit them with airstrikes until the terrorist groups realize how futile this is. All of that having been said, the IDF does operate in accordance with international law. There are constraints that are not to be detailed here that might also prevent strikes on armed men in city streets. However, it's clear that the die is cast, and the IDF is shifting direction regarding its operations in Judea and Samaria. In that note, IDF forces operating in the northern Samaria sector under Operation Iron Wall on Sunday evening found a car bomb ready for activation in the Jenin area. No further details are yet available about how the terrorists plan to use it against Israel. Forces operating in the area have eliminated several terrorists in exchanges of fire over recent days, while arresting many more and demolishing weapons, manufacturing workshops, and stocks of ammunition. While all of this is happening, over the last 24 hours, celebrations have been taking place throughout the Palestinian villages of Judea and Samaria as dozens of terrorists released in the ceasefire deal were received with Hamas flags, victory parades, and cheers lasting into the early hours. It should be noted that the IDF conducted numerous actions to try to prevent further celebrations, but these were limited to villages and the outskirts of cities and not deeper into the territory. Among other efforts, preliminary warning conversations were carried out in all the homes of the freed terrorists. Hamas flags were confiscated in Bet Lakia, and a celebration tent in El Mugayr village was cleared. In the Akab village, after a celebration event, the brother of a terrorist released in the deal was arrested. The Palestinian Authority police also engaged in crowd control measures in several villages to contain the celebrations and make sure demonstrations did not get out of hand. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on every development in the Judea and Samaria sector. We also report from TBN Israel that there is a ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza for now, but no one knows how long it will hold. In the meantime, the people of Israel are hard at work rebuilding and recovering. Areas near the Gaza Strip and the Lebanese border have been hit especially hard, with businesses and families struggling to get back on their feet. If you've been wondering how you can support Israel during this difficult time, there's a meaningful way to make an impact. Even if you can't visit just yet, you can still bring a piece of Israel into your home. ERUPTS Box is a subscription box that showcases the best of Israel, handcrafted items, delicious foods, and unique treasures made by local artisans. The name ERUPTS means towards the land in Hebrew. It reflects the heart of this initiative, connecting you with the people and stories of Israel. Each box is packed with care, offering not just a gift for yourself or your loved ones, but hope and encouragement for the artisans and the small businesses of Israel. So visit www.artsabox.com and use our exclusive 10% discount code TBNIL to order your box today. Together, we can be a blessing to Israel and spread the message of hope to the rest of the world. Thank you, and now let's return to the news, switching our focus to the Gaza Strip. Until recently, the name Arbel Yahud didn't mean much to most people. But now, this name is on everyone's lips because it's the name of a hostage that Hamas failed to release on Saturday, as had been expected, and now everything is held up. Arbel's friends and family members from Kibbutz Nir Oz are also anxiously awaiting her return amid grave concerns about what Hamas might be up to. According to a report from Sky News Arabia, Arbel was supposed to be released 24 hours before the third phase on Saturday in exchange for the opening of the Nezareem route and the release of 30 Palestinian security prisoners. But for some reason, that didn't happen. And now the decision has been made that until Arbel is released, the Nezareem route will remain closed, and Israel is insisting on Hamas's compliance with the agreement. The next phase will not start until she is back in Israel. The IDF Arabic spokesperson's unit published a statement clarifying that in light of Hamas's violation of the ceasefire agreement and in order to prevent friction and misunderstanding, all existing instructions are still in effect, especially the prohibition on approaching the Nezareem route until an announcement of its opening. The Nezareem Corridor will not be opened for passage until the release of Israeli civilian Arbel Yahud is arranged between the mediators and Israel. Follow the instructions to stay safe. This is the announcement. This area is currently jammed full of tens of thousands of people who are waiting to move north into the areas where they used to live before the war started, but until the situation is resolved, they will be unable to proceed. One resident told an Arab-language media portal, "Because of Arbel, 500,000 people are sleeping on the street." Other residents made similar complaints, and many blamed Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad for their situation. Reports indicate that the terrorist groups are aware of the crisis and is working urgently to resolve it as soon as possible. It is also notable that Hamas wanted to present a victory image to the world, especially their own supporters, of large numbers of people returning to the northern part of the Gaza Strip. This is, once again, an example of the cynical use that these terrorist organizations make of their own people, exploiting their suffering, which the terrorist groups themselves are responsible for, just to make a picture or a movie for media consumption. Now, however, this has backfired on them, as the media reports make it clear that these people understand it is Hamas's fault that they are sleeping on the ground out in the open. Meanwhile, according to political sources, Israel is also demanding that Hamas submit an updated hostage list, including details about their health conditions and the circumstances in which they are being held. The requirement is meant to ensure the arrangement is carried out and provide certainty regarding the status of all the hostages. In a related story, according to an AP report, United States President Donald Trump said on Saturday night that he wants to see Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab states increase the number of refugees they accept from the Gaza Strip. A source told Lebanon's El-Hadat network that Egypt conveyed to the American side its absolute refusal to accept Palestinians from Gaza. According to President Trump's statement, the move is intended just to clear the war-torn area in order to create a clean slate. He added that something has to happen because the Gaza Strip is practically a demolition site right now. Almost everything is destroyed and people are dying there. So, I'd rather clash with some of the Arab countries and build housing somewhere else where they can perhaps live in peace for a change. Personally, I think this is a good idea, but I'm sure that Hamas and their supporters in the Western countries will do what they always do and refuse to go along with something that will improve the quality of life for Palestinians, while at the same time damaging their true agenda, which is to use these people as pawns in the never-ending battle against Israel. And speaking of the true agenda of Hamas, they are currently unable to rehabilitate militarily despite attempts to present a different picture in front of the world's media. Reports indicate that although there are large numbers of new recruits who have been added to their ranks since this war began, these new recruits have received barely any training. In addition, the IDF has demolished most of the workshops where weapons like rockets and improvised explosive devices were being made, and no new supplies of weapons, ammunition, or military equipment are coming from Iran as long as the Rafah crossing and the smuggling tunnels are closed. The organization has also taken a hard blow in its political wing, and the Palestinian Authority is making loud demands to move back into the Gaza Strip and re-establish administration there. If they get enough support from the moderate Sunni governments like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, they might even be able to do it. In the meantime, please continue to spread the truth, share, and follow us. And most importantly, look for the subscribe button and click it so that you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. And please, continue praying for the swift return of our hostages who are held in Gaza. Pray that they return safely. Keep praying for the IDF soldiers wherever they are, in the Gaza Strip, in Lebanon, in Syria, or in Judea and Samaria. Pray for peace for the people of Israel and all the civilians affected by these terrorist organizations in this conflict. And most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, this city right behind me. And we will win this war because God is on our side.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.